This story is about the time I caught my coworker and manager hooking up in the office. It started when my supervisor asked me to work the evening shifts for the next few months because one of our coworkers was going on maternity leave. I was pretty happy because I had only been there for 2 months and most people wanted the evening shift since it was always less busy with people and you had a lot of freedom to yourself, so I said yes. There were only 3 people for the shift, including me. There was Joe, who had been working at the clinic for over 7 years and had a really flirty personality, where sometimes he'd casually hit on all the girls and didn't care if they were single or married, but for the most part they didn't take him seriously because they knew he was harmless. And then there was Heather, the evening manager, who had been there a little longer than Joe and for the most part was pretty hot. She didn't really care what I did as long as I completed my work, so that was nice. Anyways, it started small, with a few giggles coming from the back of the room. I could hear slight whispers between Joe and Heather, and then the occasional burst of laughter. Sometimes they'd walk over to my desk, and we'd all joke around. I knew they had been friends for a long time, and I could see a weird twinkle in both of their eyes whenever one of them said something. I wanted to ask what the deal was between them, but I never did, because my workplace didn't allow relationships to form. Or if they did, one of them would have to move to a different department to prevent any unwanted drama. So I figured I'd let them do their thing and have their fun. Halfway through my shift, I look over to see Heather sitting on Joe's desk with her legs crossed hanging above the ground, and then lean deep into him to grab a pen. To be honest, even I was impressed and felt a bit jealous, but I could tell Heather really wanted Joe. As I look at Joe, I could see he's pretty frustrated with himself, but manages to keep his cool. Sort of. Now, I'm not really sure what he said to her, but I'm pretty sure it was great. Because at that point, Heather whispered into his ear, where she walked back to her office, with Joe following right behind her, and had a grin from ear to ear, like a kid entering a candy store. It didn't hit me at first because I was too busy putting in some insurance information, but I knew he got the golden ticket into the Willy Wonka factory. Joe didn't even make an effort to cover it up either. After 30 minutes, he came out with his tie shifted to the side, his shirt a little looser than before, and sweat sitting on his forehead like he was in a sauna. The funny thing was, I wasn't the only person to see him come out. A patient did too. But all he did was casually smile and went back to his desk like a boss. The rest of the shift was pretty quiet and boring, and before we clocked out, we gave each other silent smiles as I shook my head in disapproval. I never asked him what happened because I'd rather not know, but judging by the acoustics, it wasn't a home run. Not yet, at least. Still, this became an on and off thing for the next 2 weeks. Until one day, Joe came up to me before he went on his lunch break. He asked if it would be okay if he went out to grab some food on his lunch break and left me by myself for a bit. It was already late into our shift, so there wasn't going to be anyone coming in, so I said fine. Maybe 2 minutes later, Heather came up to me and said she was going to run some paperwork up to another floor and would be back in a bit. I guess you can say I'm a little slow at these things because it didn't really hit me yet that they may have been doing the nasty because they left from different doors. But after an hour, I knew she wasn't dropping off paperwork, and he definitely wasn't getting lunch. At least, not alone. At this point, I was a little annoyed, but luckily, I was distracted when a patient came in and asked, "Hi, where can I find Joe?" I didn't know if she was asking for the same Joe, so I asked back, "Sure, what's Joe's last name? I can look him up for you." And that was when she named that Joe. "Oh, yeah, Joe. What's your relationship to him?" "I'm his wife." Oh, crap. My eyes instantly widened. I got up from my chair, and when I looked over the counter, I could see a little boy standing next to her and a baby girl sleeping in a stroller. I had no idea what to say or how to respond because this was a double whammy. I mean, for one, I didn't know he was married and had kids, and 2, he was obviously bumping uglies with my manager. I didn't know if I should tell her if he was at lunch or if he was busy working. In the end, I didn't want to start anything, so I lied and said that he went to the restroom and that she could have a seat outside and I'd let her know when he was back. Instead, she said she was going to wait there since it shouldn't be too long. I sat there awkwardly staring at her family, knowing what he was doing and imagining the clusterfuck that could happen. I decided that I was going to play the voice of God and text him, but just as I was typing, both Joe and my manager walked in together at the same time. I'm usually not one for drama, but this time I sat in my chair and pictured myself eating a bag of buttered popcorn ready for some reality TV. I could see Joe was surprised, but instead of him panicking or my manager avoiding her, she ended up going in for a hug and saying, "Hello, sister." Sisters. They are sisters. WTF. I don't think I blinked once, and I'm pretty sure something flew into my mouth because I was completely speechless. While they were hugging, I could see Joe look at me, and when we made eye contact, he gave me a shut the fuck up look, and then introduced me to his wife. I knew I wasn't going to say anything because it wasn't my business, but damn. You'd think this rattled them, but instead, this continued for at least 2 months, and by then, I had gone back to my old shift. But one day, my supervisor told me to go to Human Resources because they wanted to speak with me. When I sat down, she asked me if I had noticed anything odd that needed to be brought up to their attention during the time I worked the evening shift. I didn't want to say anything that would get someone fired, but I definitely wasn't going to get fired for them either. I played as dumb as I could, trying to be neutral and not assume anything. And then she went straight for it and told me why I had been called in. She said they had some video footage showing 2 employees scanning into a room during my evening shift a few weeks ago, and they were interviewing people for statements. She said it was going to be anonymous, and that she wanted to know if I knew anything about this or people scanning into the room. I wasn't sure if she was testing me, or if she knew I knew what was going on. But without a doubt she knew I knew because I have a horrible poker face. In the end, I lied and told her I didn't know anything. I could see she knew I was lying, but because I would say I didn't know, she couldn't really do much. I felt guilty for it because I felt like they had a right to know, and most of all, his wife, or Heather's sister, deserved the truth as well. But I didn't want to be a rat or destroy a family. I could watch drama, but I don't want to be in it. It took 2 weeks until something did happen. When I checked on our shift calendar, Joe and Heather's names weren't on there. It turned out Human Resources didn't really need my statement anyway. They just wanted further evidence. They already had video footage, and when they used their badges to scan in, both Joe's and Heather's names logged into the system. My supervisor said they quit, but really, we all knew they were forced to resign for their activities. What I hear from the grapevine, those weren't the only things that happened during the night shifts, and I would later see more crazy stuff. Anyway, this was one of my work stories. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.